Alright everyone, welcome back to this channel. Today we are discussing this topic that has been generating a lot of conversation online. There is this claim that some Asian Americans are arguing that Black Americans will eventually need their businesses and services even if there are calls for economic boycotts. Now, let's just remember that neither Black Americans nor Asian Americans are monolithic groups, and people within every community hold different opinions, different political views, and different perspectives on economic issues. So let's approach this conversation thoughtfully and focus on the broader ideas rather than making assumptions about entire groups of people. So with that said, let's get into it. I'll be back with more commentaries, and in case of any thoughts, kindly feel free to let me know in the comment section. Otherwise, stay tuned.
I have seen more Asian Americans being upset at the fact that Black Americans are threatening to boycott Asian businesses than I have seen Asian Americans speaking out against the murder of Cyrus Carmick Belton.
So what do y'all think about this? Here we go, another Asian telling y'all that y'all can't do without them. And it's amazing to me how the women get on this app and be so quick to say what they ain't gonna do and what they don't need and who they gonna boycott, when you sitting up here with everything on that they produce. You got the hair on, you got the weave on, the clothes, designer clothes, everything he said you got. So what you gonna do? It's kind of unbelievable. And I tell you something else, I've been seeing videos where people have been lately really trying to patronize in the Black community. And what happens? One girl said, and this is why I stopped with the Black nail technicians, and I had thought about that thing. A lot of Black nail technicians, when you go to them and your nails are already done, they don't want to do your nails. They say they don't work over anybody else's work, and you have to go get them taken off. They don't have the service of taking off nails or soaking them off, so you still have to go to an Asian for them to take your nails off. And that's when an Asian told me I was messing my nail bed up because I kept on getting my nails taken off and going to get them redone, a fresh set every time. It's like you destroying your nail bed. I was like, okay. Then you hear another girl on here. She said she patronized with a Black establishment the other day, and when she came in, she asked for a certain thing. They didn't have it. And she was like, what do you suggest? And they was like, what do you want? They just had a bad attitude. And she was finna give them a good review. And then she changed it because she's like, they treated her like trash. So what are you doing? I'll tell you something else. Every time I go into a hair supply store, and I go to the same one all the time, they are so nice to me. I get a discount. And then every once in a while, they have a product in there and say, try this and see if you like it. How many times have you went to your Black nail technician or your Black salon, person that does your hair, your Black beautician, and they have actually did something like your birthday come up, and they have actually given you something for your birthday, or how else can I say this, or vice versa? How many times do you get your hair done and you know your beautician does a good job and you don't even tip them? I'm just saying, we just out of order in all kind of ways, and we got a lot of work to do. You have to be a certain type of way if you're going to own a business and you want people to come and shop with you, because now they just coming and shop with you because of this boycotting thing. But if they really had a choice and this never would have happened, guess what? They would have never came to your store, because you don't treat them with respect. You don't treat them with respect. And then the good people that do your services, you don't tip them. You understand me? I wouldn't dare not tip my beautician. Wouldn't dare not tip my nail tech, because I appreciate the service they give me.
I don't even know why Asian Americans are so worried about the boycott, because let's be honest, if you guys have stores in Black neighborhoods, you were treating those people like part of the community, then you wouldn't have to worry about it. Like, people who treat the community they're in with dignity and respect are celebrated. If you put back to that community and you're not just extracting, then you don't have to worry. People will support you because you're part of the community and you added to it. But if you're just a fucking parasite in the Black community, yeah, I would be worried too. All you have to do is just treat people with dignity. If you're out here surveilling people, you should be worried. Tell everybody, Asian Americans, all of your relatives who are putting up pictures of Black people as thieves and following them around and surveilling them and harassing them or calling them names and talking about them, and all of y'all who are racist and who treat your customer base like less than subpar, you should be worried. And to be honest, it's not just them that need to be worried, everybody. Because if Black people have high racial self-esteem, where anyone that is disrespectful to our community and our blackness, we don't do business with, then you guys are all fucked. A lot of you guys are not going to be good. Some of you will really not have businesses, for real. There's a lot of you that are really screwed. You're so fucked. And then wait till black people tap into their cultural practices, because all black people on this planet, everywhere, are connected to a lot of indigenous cultural practices, whether it's in the Caribbean, the Americas, Africa, South Asia, wherever the deeply melanated people are. We have practices that can ensure that we will be self-sufficient. And I'm talking about America, so like, think about what your ancestors did just not even that long ago to survive in the South, and how they survived before everything was globalized, commercialized, before all of the processed foods and the food deserts. What did your people do? What do people do? You're gonna rediscover that. You will be self-sufficient. This could change the world, what black people are doing. So yeah, I'm so grateful and happy, and I support it.
Hey guys, boycotting the Asian community. Now, before the black community does that, I need you to do yourself a favor and listen to this video, because us talking about it is one thing, but hearing it directly from somebody in the community will give you some insight into what is said and done in the homes, the things that we can't see or hear. When you're done listening, drop in the comments what you believe. Boycott, band together and unite, ban altogether.
To be honest about acknowledging anti-blackness among Asian Americans, especially when the call was coming from my own house, so here we go. I first became aware of my mom's anti-blackness when I started kindergarten, and it mostly centered around avoiding interactions with black people and not allowing me to be exposed to anything that she considered black culture. So if we were walking and she saw a black person, she would pull me closer to her. If we were in the car in a parking lot and saw a black person in the parking lot, she would make a point to lock the doors, and I wasn't allowed to listen to rap or Michael Jackson or Tina Turner. And she was hypocritical about that, because I wasn't allowed to listen to Cyndi Lauper or Madonna either. She would call it trash music and say that it was going to be a bad influence. But if it was a white artist, it was not racialized. It was only when it was black artists that it was racialized. And another thing that I think is kind of typical is, as a musician, there were a lot of black artists whom she respected and enjoyed, but she would always say that one black artist is the exception, the rest are bad influences. When I went to school, if I came home and said I made a friend, her first question would be white or black. And that drove me nuts, because in preschool, I dealt with a lot of bullying and discrimination because of being Asian, so it didn't make sense to me that she wanted me to turn around and do that very same thing to my black classmates, whom she knew nothing about, on the basis of their skin color. And when I wouldn't stay away from my black friends, she would resort to making up justifications as to why it was harmful for me. She would say they're going to hurt me and they're going to be a bad influence because they fight and they swear and they're not good students. And of course, none of that was true. And in my household, it was not physically or emotionally safe to voice your opinions, but about that I would, because it literally angered me. And then she would resort to physical violence. And that sealed the deal in my mind that prejudice is purely irrational, because none of her claims had any basis in reality, and that's why she had to resort to physical force. Unfortunately, I think that when parents resort to intimidation and violence to instill prejudice in their children, a lot of times it works. But I was very lucky, because the principal of my elementary school was a black woman who implemented a program called Students Educating Each Other About Discrimination. And that wasn't centered on racial discrimination, it was about discrimination in general. But in that program, we learned to have discussions about discrimination and to identify it and disrupt it. Which at that age just means if you witness discrimination, say it's discrimination and articulate how you know that it's discrimination. So from learning that very powerful tool at school, I was able to identify that what my mom was doing at home was wrong. Additionally, the principal was a black woman, so I had a black woman in a position of leadership as a role model. And in my school district, she wasn't a token. They really valued black leadership, from teachers to administration, guidance counselors, all the way up to superintendents. And so I was surrounded by black role models who made me see that reality did not line up with what my mom was trying to teach me. The straw that broke the camel's back was sometime around the ages of between 7 and 9. I was planning a birthday party and I told my mom that I want to invite my friend Keisha, which I knew was going to be an issue, but I thought I would try. And she said no, and I said fine, then I don't want to have a birthday party, and she made me have the birthday party. So now that felt like that's not only cruel to me, but that's cruel to my friend Keisha, whom you don't even know because you refused to meet her. Shortly after that, we were walking in the mall, and my mom did this thing that she often did, which is she sees black people minding their own business, and under her breath, she mumbles a derogatory term in Chinese for black people. And I remember I pulled back on her hand and faced her, and I said, they are not doing anything. You don't know them. The next time you do that, I am going to go up to them, and I'm going to tell them what you said. And believe it or not,
So I am wholeheartedly participating in the Asian American boycott, and I'm going to share with you why. Right? A lot of people are conflating this current black resentment with the situation in South Carolina, but the resentment between black and Asian Americans has been something that has been ongoing for many decades. Right? And when I say Asian American, right now, the focus is on the Koreans, Chinese, Vietnamese, or whatever, but all of them, really. Arabs, okay, Indians, they all have worked in tandem to be complicit in white supremacy and systemic racism, and willingly be a buffer, right? Now, I'm reading this book called The People's History of America by Howard Zinn, and I'm on chapter 5. This is a really dense, intense book, right? And one thing that they talk about in these early chapters is how, like, when America was in its very beginning stages before it was America, right? How a lot of times the white Europeans that were here as indentured servants would be more aligned with, African slaves, the people who were enslaved from Africa, than they would with the white elites, right? And to keep them from unifying, right, as a people with a common thread of oppression, what they started doing was realizing, hey, we can't let these people get up all together on us. We can't let them unite, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to give them a few crumbs, right? We're going to give black people nothing because we need them to be our slaves. Nobody else is physically fit or mentally capable to be a slave, right? So for the other people, we're gonna have them be slaves too, but in a different sort of way. So we're gonna kind of throw them some more cookies, give them a little sense of power and things like that. So that way they could be a little bit more on the side of us, the elites, versus the side of the black and the indigenous people, right? So that situation can be applied because a lot of Asians like to believe this model minority myth, okay? I'm not going to say all I want to say. I've seen them up close and personal, how the Indians live, the Chinese dealing with them business-wise. Unscrupulous, really. Dirty and unscrupulous. I didn't say what I want to say. But yeah, this we work harder, we stick together. That's a quarter of the truth, right? Because nobody in this world, trust me, has worked harder than black people. Okay? And yeah, and a lot of people, black people, are saying, oh, you can't do this to them because that links all Asians. We're mimicking the behavior of their oppressor. Oh, no, we're not. We're not committing genocide. We're not flooding their communities with drugs and opium and getting them all drugged up so they could be incapacitated, right? We're not sending the CIA to topple their governments and tackle democracy. We're not dropping a nuclear bomb on them. We're not putting them in internment camps and concentration camps. We're not doing that. We're just simply saying, hey, right? And then, too, another thing that gets me is that Asians, they like to pretend like they're so neutral, right? And a part of that is appeasement to white people, because like someone else said, a lot of them are the white people's lapdogs, right? But now I'm seeing videos on TikTok, right? They are mocking us. They are actually, I've seen videos, they're taking videos of black people in their establishments today and this week saying like, hey, oh, you said you was going to boycott us. Y'all still here, right? Then the situation with the affirmative actions in the schools and things like that, this is long overdue. They are the white people's lapdogs. I personally, like, people like, oh, this Asian person did something nice for me. One or two is anecdotal evidence, right? Like, I have a couple of people of color as my friends. I have that have been nice to me. I have some white friends, but just because a few white people or a few people have done or been, nice towards me or whatever, that doesn't absolve the grand scheme of things. That didn't absolve me from systemic racism and disenfranchisement as a black woman. That didn't raise my pay at work, right? That didn't get me off the margins of society because a few people were good. So yeah, all of them, for the most part, 99% of them. Right? So yeah, I'm not happy with the state of society. I'm not happy with the fact that, you know, I don't really feel like in mass black people have allies. I feel like everyone else besides black people are complicit, right, in the system, are complicit in racism, are complicit in anti-blackness, are complicit in white supremacy. And I have no qualms. Like, listen, I do my own nails, okay? I make my own pho. I'm learning how to make ramen. I do my own toes. Okay, I don't need them to do my hair. I don't wear a weave. Okay, I don't need them for anything. And that's not being too like that. When oh, this way to listen. We're not talking about that. We talk about y'all in America. Okay. And I remember at first I was kind of like thinking about the Target boycott, like, I don't know about that. And then when I start seeing them stores empty, I'm like, okay, they own something. So guess what? I used to actually go to Target every week. You spend $200-$300. Target used to be my preferential store. I haven't been there except for like once because it was the most accessible for something to me in almost 2 years, right? So listen, people might not catch on at first, but guess what? They'll catch on. And they'll catch on. And y'all gonna be eating your words. I'm not fucking around with people. This is not the time to be to play reindeer games, right? Especially in this the world and the things happening at large. It's so much happening in the world, but everyone want to get together and be anti-black. Imagine that. You're not mad at data centers. You're not mad at billionaires. You're not mad at AI. You're mad at black people.
You know, one of the most interesting aspects of economic boycotts is that they are ultimately above average, or about leverage, and throughout history, consumers have used their spending power to send messages, to demand changes, or express dissatisfaction. And whether successful or unsuccessful, boycotts are built on the idea that consumers have choices and that where they spend their money matters. Yes, so the argument we are hearing from some people is that certain businesses have become so integrated into local communities that consumers will eventually return because they rely on those services. And according to this viewpoint, market realities will ultimately outweigh political or social disagreements. But the response from many supporters of boycott is quite different. They are arguing that consumers are not obligated to support any business, and if people feel ignored, if people feel disrespected or dissatisfied, they have every right to spend their money elsewhere. And in a free market, businesses compete for customers and customers decide where their dollars go. Yes, so that's really the central debate here. Is consumer loyalty stronger than frustration, or is frustration strong enough to permanently change spending habits? You know, many people online are pointing out that consumer behavior can change dramatically when alternatives become available. We've seen this happen across numerous industries. Customers who once believed they had no other options suddenly discover new businesses, new suppliers, and new entrepreneurs willing to meet their needs. So, this is why economic competition matters. When consumers have choices, businesses can no longer assume that customers will automatically return. They must continuously earn trust, they must provide value, and maintain positive relationships with the communities that they serve. And another point being raised is that boycotts often create opportunities for new businesses. And when consumers intentionally redirect spending, entrepreneurs frequently step in to fill any gaps in the marketplace. And that's one reason why economic movements can sometimes have effects that extend beyond the immediate controversy. Because a boycott is not only about where money is not being spent, it's also about where that money is being redirected. You know, supporters of economic self-determination often argue that communities should strengthen businesses that align with their interests, with their values and priorities. Their belief is that every dollar spent is effectively a vote for the type of economic future that they want to build. And at the same time, critics of boycotts argue that prolonged economic divisions can harm relationships between communities and create unnecessary tensions. They believe cooperation and dialogue produce better long-term outcomes than economic separation. And that's a perspective worth considering as well, because ultimately, healthy communities depend on trust, they depend on mutual respect, they depend on economic opportunity for everyone involved. And what makes this discussion fascinating is that it touches on a larger question that goes far beyond any single boycott. How much power do consumers actually have? You know, businesses often assume that convenience drives customer decisions, but history has repeatedly shown that values, identity, and principle can also influence where people spend their money. And when enough consumers act together, businesses pay attention. When businesses adapt, consumers notice. And when both sides remain committed to their positions, the outcome often depends on who is willing to adjust first. And as this debate continues online, one thing remains clear, that nobody can take customers for granted. Regardless of race, ethnicity, or background, consumers make choices every day about where their money goes. And businesses that understand their customers and build genuine trust tend to be more resilient during controversies. And meanwhile, communities seeking economic change often recognize that lasting results require consistency, patience, and long-term commitment. So while some people may argue that consumers will inevitably return because they need certain products or services, others believe that alternative businesses and changing consumer habits can permanently reshape the marketplace. Only time can determine which view proves more accurate. So, what do you think? Do economic boycotts have the power to create lasting changes in consumer behavior, or do market realities eventually bring customers back to the businesses that they once supported? Just share your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this discussion, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss on future commentary and analysis. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. All credit belongs to the original creators of the video.